Welcome back to another episode of Diggity, a weekly video game podcast where we catch you up on all of the gaming news from the week. We go live every Thursday night at 9 p.m. on Twitch and YouTube. If you miss us live, no worries. The audio version will go live at 5 a.m. every Friday, and the YouTube video will stay up in case you would like to see our faces for some godforsaken reason. We are also a part of the Spawn Camp Network, a collection of podcasts focused on bringing you content that will make you smile nearly every day of the week. You can head over to spawncamp.co to get links to all of our socials and get in contact with us. The Spawn Camp Network is made up of WASD and Beyond, a topic-based podcast that zeroes in on the gaming of PC gaming, and the gaming culture as a whole. The Build Bros, which is Spawn Camp's resident gunpla and anime podcast. Objectively Bad Opinions, the monthly chaos podcast that brings various members of the network together to get up to all sorts of different shenanigans, and, well, Diggity. We also upload gameplay videos on Tuesdays that not only feature us, but members of the community as well. If you're wondering how you can join said community, check the episode description for a link to our entirely free Discord. The server is constantly growing with members from many different communities, and we bond over everything from food to F1, and plenty of gaming, gunpla, and anime content as well. Hop on in, and we would love to have you there. And with that being said, this is episode 266 of Diggity, and instead of seeing Jeff here, I have a wonderful guest with me tonight, LeRon from the Crossroads podcast, and as well as just the Boss Rush Network as a whole. LeRon, how are you tonight?
I'm all right. How's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad.
I feel like we just did this dance, except it was on Crossroads.
That's right. I know. You offered to come on sometime, and you just didn't expect it to be so soon.
Hey, but it's always a pleasure. Like, shoot, I love being on Diggity. This is my fourth time?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell the fine people where they can find you and kind of what you get up to?
Oh yeah, you can find me in my little corner of the internet by checking me out on youtube.com/Exodus803, which is also my social media handle, Exodus803. So look me up on Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that. And also my YouTube and Twitch channels are also under that moniker, and my PlayStation ID and my Steam ID are also all that. So I worked very hard to get it all tied into that, unfortunately, my Xbox Live is slightly different than that, but and Nintendo Switch, whatever. But usually, you usually can find me almost every Tuesday night on my YouTube channel live for the Crossroads podcast, where me and some buddies, sometimes Brody's there, talking about everything PlayStation, PC, and Xbox, and then we have a lot of color commentary, about things that are going on in our lives, in the video gaming community and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a fun time. Yeah, and I am a part of the Boss Rush Network. So definitely hit us up. If you just like being in the know or seeing like the nerdy side of things, yeah, bossrush.net. Yeah, just hit us up.
Yeah, I mean, I was on Crossroads last week for it was 94?
92.
Yeah, and it's always a blast. I mean, the offshoots that we go on sometimes.
yeah. You know what? And that's what I love about it. And you know what? I never moderate. I never cut that stuff out. So like, if you go to my YouTube channel and just check out the Crossroads playlist, it's the entire show unedited. Of course, I've got filler stuff in there now. I've gotten good at this thing now to where I can drop in and drop out content about the stuff that we're talking about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm starting to do that YouTube production thing,
Oh boy. See, Jeff handles most of that, so whenever I run the show, it's as bare bones as we can possibly get. I'm like just enough to make sound and sometimes video work. So I even had Nick hop in there. I'm like, hey man, I need you to check my audio because I'm doing this on the fly. So go ahead and hop in there and make sure everything sounds good. So we're barely keeping the show together, but hey, it's together and that's all I can ask for. But
you know what? You're doing something right. Episode 266.
Episode 266.
Isn't it like a podcast statistic that most shows don't make it past like episode 11 or 13 or something like that? It's an odd number, but it's very low. Like most shows don't make it outside the low teens.
Yeah. I mean, you figure that's 3 to 4 months of doing podcasting. And so I could see it, especially if you're not like fully invested into it. I mean, I think at this point we've been doing it for Oh God, I don't know. Almost 4 years? I don't remember. It all runs together, but we used to do the 2 episodes a week, and so we really boosted our episode numbers really early on, and even then, I don't even know if 266 is actually right. It's close, but
Oh, what you guys didn't accurately track?
no, and we had a lot of like not really half episodes, but like coverage episodes for certain things that we don't really count as main numbered. So really, we're
Oh, gotcha.
probably in the like 270s, give or take.
Okay.
But yeah, it's all good stuff. We've got a ton of things today because as I was putting together this show, more and more things kept popping up, and it was
I
actually
hate it.
pretty impressive. Like,
I
it,
hate it because like today's Thursday, so like Crossroads was live on Tuesday, and it's like, oh, y'all waited till Wednesday and Thursday to throw all this news out here, and here I am scrambling for just like some decent talking topics, even though like the last couple of weeks is, it's kind of throwing stuff in my lap because like Sony is on a 3-week tour of everybody just hating them right now.
Yeah. Yeah, they've kind of had a real rough thing. And honestly, like we didn't even cover that. The $50 price hike on,
Yeah.
across different countries except for the US pretty much
Oh
for
yeah.
Sony. So Sony's kind of been in some hot water, and I don't even know how that really
You know,
slipped through and we never talked about it, but we didn't for whatever reason. I think
Well, we did a breakdown of it on Tuesday night and basically told everybody like what the percentage increase was versus,
yeah.
because like like people look at that hard number and they don't think about like what it really offsets and stuff like that. Like Europe is seeing a 10 to 12% increase, depending on which console you get. And the UK by themselves is getting like anywhere from a 7 to an 8%, increase and stuff like that. And
Right.
just little nuanced stuff like that, puts it in better perspective because I
Oh,
mean, like
absolutely.
everybody's having these knee jerk reactions. Oh, it's so expensive. And all this. It's not that much more expensive than it already was. Like, I mean, like if the PlayStation was going up $100, $200 like higher than what it is right now, that's expensive.
Right.
Like this pricing doesn't even put it in a different tax bracket.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, this pricing doesn't. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so
it's
it's wild. It's wild, and like then the whole blowback about we had this. You have the blowback about like what was the other the UK lawsuit. Which thank you for all your input last
oh
week
yeah.
on last week's show. Because like it's like I want to point and laugh, but I don't want to be that guy that points and laughs.
Right. And I think that was another one that didn't make it into the episode last week because we just covered Gamescom, and by the
Yeah.
time I filled all that
Oh,
out,
good
I
episode
mean
by the way. Good
we were
episode, by the way. I listened to y'all's Gamescom coverage. Oh man, like you guys have a magic for that stuff.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. I painstakingly like actually watch and write everything down as I go, and it takes me like 4 hours to get through a 2 hour broadcast, but I never want to miss anything, right? I'm anal like
Yeah.
that, and I'm very particular about how I do it, and so I enjoy doing it, but it's also one of those things at the end of the day, it's like, well, we can't cover anything else because we just talked about everything announced during opening night live, so here we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it
Yeah, I'm
it's
the same way. I'm very anal about that stuff. So it was one of those things like it can if it happens that day, it's like, oh, this could make or break the show. Like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's how we missed the price hike. We missed the PlayStation lawsuit about being about having a monopoly on their own digital storefront. Basically, is what it is, and
Yeah.
it all boils down to. I mean, that lawsuit's not going to go anywhere. If you want to hear
Yeah,
my
it's
thoughts on
it's
that,
it's
you're going to have to go listen to Crossroads.
for real.
Uh huh. But I mean, so let's go ahead and jump into the first little tidbit here. So Sony and Tencent just bought sizable amounts of From Software's market share. So FromSoft just released new shares of its stock to Six Joy Hong Kong, a Tencent subsidiary, and Sony Interactive Entertainment, which is also obviously a subsidiary of Sony Group. These shares now bring Sony up to 14.09% ownership and Sixjoy up to 16.25% ownership, but majority stake is still owned by Kadokawa Corporation, which is FromSoft's parent company, which is 69.66%. So ultimately, the way I read this is not a whole lot's going to change. I mean, FromSoft and Sony have really already had a pretty good relationship. Tencent has their hands in every single pie pretty much at this
Everything.
point. So I don't see a whole lot changing here. There was a knee-jerk reaction when people saw this initially that like, oh no, Sony now has like bought basically FromSoft, and that's not the case.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, a good chunk of this company is owned by Sony and Tencent now, and very little, if any, actually shakes down to where it's owned outside of these two other companies aside from Kadokawa. But what's your take on it? How you feel?
Well, I feel like it is pretty funny though, because like because remember all the doom and gloom, after Microsoft got Activision Blizzard, all the doom and gloom was like, please don't let Sony get FromSoft, and look what happened.
Yeah.
They've now got a minority stake in it, which honestly a minority stake is probably a good move.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
Sony's got minority stakes in quite a few places, like Epic Games. I think they have the biggest share in Epic Games, outside of Epic themselves and things like
Yeah.
that.
I think
Sony's
Tencent may
making
have a
moves
bigger piece of them, if I remember
in, in,
correctly.
in Epic. I didn't know Tencent was involved in Epic.
Yeah,
Um,
they own it. Here, I'll look it up while you continue.
okay, yeah, but yeah, I mean, Sony. I feel like Sony is making smart moves because like Sony doesn't have Microsoft money, so they can't just out and out buy out, and stuff like that.
Ooh.
But oh, what's up?
Tencent owns 40% of Epic Games.
Of Epic Games. Oh my god.
Ooh.
And Sony's got like what, like 21, 22 or something like that?
Yeah, it's something like that. I
Yeah.
think they just upped it to 10% if I remember correctly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, all I know is like when they because like this is what I think Sony's second, maybe third year partnering with Epic Games. And so like when that number increased, it actually sent ripples throughout the gaming sphere and stuff like that. Um Yeah, but I mean, from I feel like From Software's always had a relationship with Sony. Like if you
Yeah.
look back in the PS1 and PS2 days with Armor and all those other games and all that stuff and stuff like that, it seems like From Software is synonymous with Sony and PlayStation and stuff like that. So I'm not really surprised, and good on Sony that they're actually able to actually get a flex in and like get something going and stuff like
Yeah.
that, because like with all the rumors about like these companies going up for sale, and like people trying to like polish and buff their stock profiles and all that stuff and so, and things like that. you know Sony making any type of move to like is not so much to stay relevant, but just to stay in the game, is a good thing. But also I think Microsoft also has to slow their roll just a little bit, because the more and more we look at like the stuff that they do and things like that, the more and more governments are going to be like, hey, what you doing, like
Yep.
what's going on here.
I think so. Sony owns about 5.4% of Epic Games as of April this year.
Oh, that's
But
it.
yeah, I thought it was a little bit more. I thought they
I
upped
thought it
to
was a
like
little bit higher.
10%. But I,
Uh,
I apparently misremembered there. But so yeah, I think this is a smart move by Sony, right? One of the most beloved FromSoft games is Bloodborne, and it's a Sony exclusive, hopefully coming to PC one day. I mean, a guy can dream, right? But I think this kind of solidifies further partnerships in some way, shape, or form, right? Like this
yeah.
isn't going to be necessarily make or break, and it's not necessarily going to keep FromSoft games from coming to Xbox or other platforms or anything. But it is one of those things that definitely should strengthen their relationship. And I think it's also very smart for Sony to buy these smaller percentages in companies rather than
Mhm.
going all out like Microsoft, because they don't have Microsoft money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just don't, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Microsoft is out there flexing and laying it out all out on the table and being like, hey, we're just gonna buy out Activision Blizzard. It's like, okay, I mean, yes, that is a good decision, I guess, as far as from a business perspective, right? But yeah, Sony just buying up, a decent chunk. I mean, 14.09% of FromSoft is nothing to scoff at by any means. And I think it'll just going forward, ensure we're going to get something, whether it be Bloodborne 2 or something else that is going to be probably some sort of a PlayStation exclusive. And like you said, they've always had that good relationship there, and I don't see any reason why that won't continue.
Yeah. Yeah. The landscape of gaming, is always constantly changing, ever evolving and stuff like that. Like it's like it's like that old saying, it's strange times that we live in. And like I feel like for the most part, it's very exciting to see some of this stuff happening and things like that. Like the landscape of gaming should never stay the same. It should always, have its peaks, have its valleys and all that stuff. Like because this is how like gamers like us, we win. Like when these
Mm.
things change and like innovation happens, or even like trimming the fat out of, because there's some companies out there that just don't do anything for the gaming community, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
seeing
absolutely.
the fat get trimmed, or seeing a shake up and things change, things like that. I'm down for it.
Yeah, and honestly, any competition just helps the other companies become stronger, right? Like
Exactly.
Xbox shit the bed with the Xbox One, and so they came back better this time around. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
we're lacking in some of the first party games and things of that nature, but they have Game Pass, which is kind of their bread and butter. Whereas I don't think Sony's version of Game Pass is as good personally.
Yep,
That's just
it's
me,
not it's
but
not it's not there yet. Even though, like, I saw some news today that like Sony's actually starting to strengthen it, though, because
they
I mean,
are.
like, Deathloop is going to become a permanent addition to PlayStation Plus.
Yeah. So they're working on it, right? And it's in its infancy, right? And Game
Yeah,
Pass was the same way. It struggled right at first too, and so they're playing this back and forth game. And at the end of the day, this competition is important to make sure that at the end of, consumers win, right? Because if
yes,
they are not competing and making themselves
Yep.
marketable to consumers, then we get screwed in the long run. So
And
anybody who
that's
wants,
exactly it.
Xbox to go down or anything like that, that's bad for the industry. Nobody wants to see that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's exactly it too. Like, I mean, like, keeping the consumer happy is what all these companies want. Like, and even with all these little kerfluffles that are going on, like I said, Sony's on a 3 week high right now, like pissing everybody off and stuff like that. But like, it can easily flip, because I mean, like, for every week that Sony has, like, bad rep, like some other company catches it twofold. Like,
oh
and I'm
yeah,
not saying Microsoft is going to make a mistake anytime soon. It could be Nintendo. Like, yeah, well, I know disgruntled Nintendo fans all the time. They're always upset about something going on, stuff like that. But just as easily as Nintendo shrugs all that stuff off, like Sony and Microsoft are able to shrug it off too. Like, there's nothing going on right now that's going to bury these companies as far as like their stock profile for right now. Right now, no, there's nothing going on. They'd have to make a really bonehead decision about something.
right, right. Speaking of bonehead decisions, we
Haha.
continue the Halo Nightmare saga. So 343 just released their September update, and it was more of the same. Actually, maybe even worse. So season 3 has been delayed until March of 2023, which will make season 2 last nearly 10 months, which is wild because I'm pretty sure season 1 was only, oh shoot, that was what, December or November or December, whenever, to like
Yeah.
March or April or whatever it ended up being. I'm not adding up the months currently. But regardless, people complained about that season being too long, and this is significantly longer even. Not a great look. Split screen co-op has also been tossed in the garbage and will not be brought to Halo Infinite. They will instead be
Woo!
focusing on live service development, which is one of the hugest complaints about Halo 5. That they straight up came out and said they would never do that again, and here we are. And especially to, in their release of this, say we're actually going to focus on live service development instead, is a absolute kick in the nuts to Halo fans. Especially since split screen has been a staple of the Halo franchise since the
For
beginning,
real.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Forge has also been delayed until November again, which this was supposed to be brought around early spring, if I remember
This is
correctly.
I feel like I feel like that's the running gag right now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's just an absolute disaster over there. And online co op and the long requested mission replay feature for the campaign, which you have to be able to do in order to get skulls if you didn't get them the first go around, have been delayed until November as well for their winter update that is coming. So I I have shit on 343 quite a few times on this podcast over this game.
I know, like, and I mean, just as recently as a month ago, if I remember correctly.
It doesn't look like that's going to stop anytime soon either. This is
I do. I do
absolute
feel
disaster.
bad though. I do
I
feel
do.
bad for them though, just for the simple fact is, like they're atrophying like team members and stuff like that. People
Yes.
are either moving on or they're getting fired, and
Yep.
stuff like that. And like everything like stunts the development for this game. And yeah, we know like Halo's technically the flagship for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Even though like a lot of people now argue it's Gears of War, but like Halo's the flagship for Microsoft and the Xbox brand and stuff like that. And I I just feel so bad for them because like like out the gate, and not even out the gate before or like while it was lining up at the gate, it was already looking rough, and stuff like that. Before the game got released, it was supposed to be a launch title. That got hurt. The launch title looked like it was a PS3 game. That hurt it, and stuff like that. Then it come. And you know what? We live in a day and age now where every game comes out incomplete, and stuff like that. So, like that wasn't really a big shock, but like some core features being missing, like let's think about how Street Fighter 5 came out the gate, like people were really upset about that, like that should be a lesson learned for any company, like, and shareholders and stuff are involved. So, I was like, we're not going to hold this back anymore. Put it out there and stuff like that, so I feel bad for 343 Studios, but it is a nightmare, and I don't know how if they're going to be able to weather it.
I'm not sure either. And so the crazy thing to me is this game was supposed to release, like you said, with the Xbox. So it was supposed to release in 2020. And here we are, the end, or not the end, but nearing the end of 2022. The game has been out for a year, and we still don't have half of the content that it was supposed to or expected to launch with, and we didn't find out it wasn't going to launch with until shortly before release. It's got to be a dumpster fire over there. It just has to. Like like you said, I feel bad for the team because obviously they're under immense amounts of pressure. They're trying to fill gigantic footsteps in the form of Bungie, right? Like everybody kind of shits on Bungie sometimes for some of the Destiny stuff that they pull, but at the same time, like that game is a juggernaut. It continues to be a juggernaut, and they, 343 has never really found their footing with Halo. I feel like Halo 4 was one of the better ones that they did. And then Halo 5, I hated Halo 5. I never got into it. I never enjoyed it whatsoever. And I just basically quit playing it like a month after release. Well, now I'm in the same boat with Halo Infinite. I enjoyed the campaign for what it was. I mean, it wasn't the typical Halo experience you're used to getting, but I enjoyed it enough. And I enjoyed the first season of multiplayer, but here we are, a year later, there's still issues with, getting killed from around corners because the desync rate is so terrible. There's a lot of issues in the multiplayer in itself, and for them to focus on the live service element, it makes sense because they want to make money, but at the same time, you promised people the split screen co-op. You promised Forge. You promised, this online co-op, and we still don't have it, as well as, just mission replay, which in my mind seems like it should have been there to begin with,
That's like a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, especially when there's content that can be locked out of it. And this isn't a Dark Souls game where, oh yeah, you can miss out on content if you aren't paying attention. Like, this is supposed to be something that the whole franchise has been built around going back and replaying missions.
It's
and
legacy.
It's just a bizarre thing over there. I don't want to shit on 343 too much because I think they could be competent enough to make a solid game, but it does not seem like they want to make Halo. It does not seem like their heart is in Halo, and it seems like they want to do something else, but they were the studio that was brought in to make Halo, and I don't know, right? Like it's hard to see what they could do because they have been the Halo studio. That was what Microsoft created them for, but it just doesn't seem like their heart's in it. They're missing basic things that should be in a Halo game, like the Slayer playlist right out of the get-go. Like that wasn't even there. That's a staple of Halo, right? The basic things that make Halo Halo have not been there. They've been focusing on different elements, and I understand games evolve and they change, and they're not going to be the same that you remember as a child, but still, like, it just seems like huge miss after miss because they're focusing on elements that Halo fans don't care about.
Yeah, for real.
It hurts to see, and I hope they can really just kind of get this back. But Nick brought up a pretty good thing here in the Twitch chat, saying the whole gaming industry kind of seems like it's on fire. Like you said earlier, like games launch and they're incomplete at launch. We rely on patches, we rely on this and that, and that day of getting a game and that finalized game that was sent out on the cartridge or the discs or whatever it may be before we really had online connectivity. Those days are gone. They rely heavily on getting this stuff out so they can appease shareholders, but also, hey, we'll fix the game later. But you look at Battlefield 2042, it's in the same boat too. It's just, we're in a really weird spot in gaming right now where some of the juggernauts of multiplayer shooters are just absolutely shitting the bed. And now I'm sitting here excited for Call of Duty, and I'm scared it's going to be the same thing, right? I haven't been excited for a Call of Duty game in God knows how long, but I'm excited for it because I need a new multiplayer shooter in my life, and there's none of them that are doing anything exciting right now, and it's And not that this is going to be revolutionary by any means, but it's at least something to look forward to, something to hop into, and hopefully it's at least functions in some capacity where I can go in and play a few rounds of a shooting game and have fun with it in some regard. But I don't know, man. It's interesting. So moving on, NetEase has, unless you had something else to add, sorry.
No. You summed it all up. Like,
okay.
I mean, no. I'm for real. I feel like you are the master at telling it like it is when it comes to 343 Industries.
I want them to do well. I truly do, and I never want it to seem like I'm shitting on them just to shit on them. It's just it's painful to watch, right? It just is.
Yeah, it is.
It hurts. So NetEase is acquiring Quantic Dream. So the French game developer and publisher known for games such as Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human has been bought up by the PC and mobile powerhouse that is NetEase, which comes just a few years after initial investments from the Chinese company. Details on the actual deal were not made readily available, but it has been made known that Quantic Dream will continue to operate independently. And while it was not mentioned specifically, it does appear that Quantic Dream will continue to work on their collaboration with Lucasfilm Games, which is the Star Wars Eclipse. So this was a interesting one. I kind of even forgot that they do anything with PC games. I always think of NetEase as predominantly mobile. And this seems like a very interesting pickup. It doesn't seem like something that would mesh well together in all reality, but they published, I believe, Naraka, Blade Point, and a few other odds and end PC games, but they definitely have focused predominantly on the mobile market, which makes sense. It's a Chinese company. Chinese games the Chinese market really focuses pretty heavily on mobile games as well as like Japanese market and things. So yeah, seems like a weird cooperation here for sure.
Yeah, the news kind of struck me as weird too, and I was like, I thought Quantic Dream, if anything, was gonna stay in Sony's wheelhouse, Yeah. But after Heavy Rain, I'm sorry, Detroit Become Human, winding up, it wound up moving to PC onto the Epic Store and stuff like that. I was like, oh, it looks like I'm not sure if the partnership's off or if it has something to do with like Sony's minority stake in Epic or whatnot. I don't know, like this one kind of struck me as weird, and it could just be that NetEase is trying to move into like more like the console and PC like market and stuff like that.
Yeah,
yeah. Like I'm having a hard time reading like the whole like it's like I'm like trying to decipher the whole thought process here because like NetEase is not what I expected a company like Quantic Dream would wind up at. Like if anything, I thought it'd be like what was it was it Nordic?
Yeah, THQ Nordic.
Yeah, THQ Nordic. Yeah, that's what I would have expected.
Yeah.
Or shit, even who's buying up everybody right now? I forget the name.
The parent company for THQ Nordic has been buying up a bunch of people lately.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm drawing a blank, and I think they
yeah.
just
Me,
changed their name too, if I
yeah,
remember
me,
correctly.
me too. Yeah, yeah. Well, who the hell is it?
Yeah, I'm drawing a complete blank right now. THQ is part of Embracer.
Embracer.
Yes,
Thank you.
there we are. We got there. Yeah, that seems like the more likely pickup to me for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
have made sense, I guess, just because they do kind of venture into everything. They're in a way like, kind of like a Tencent where they just kind of put their hands in all of the pies and taste
Hmm.
all of the flavors. But instead, NetEase is a very interesting one. I do think part of that has to do with the fact that Quantic Dream kind of had some real drama around them, as far as like work environment being pretty rough and their
Yeah.
head guy being a real shitbag.
Yeah.
So I assume that kind of brings some of their market value down, and I think that also has a good reason as to why we are not seeing like what they actually paid for them, because most of the time that stuff is readily available. Like
I know.
everybody covers that, and hey, this is how much they paid for him. There was not much on this one. It was pretty minimal. Like, hey, this happened. They could have given tree fitty for it and called it a fucking day. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
It was a weird one for sure. We got a little bit of a rumor time here. So Ubisoft is supposedly working on a remake of the original Assassin's Creed. This was kind of undermined by something else that came out today. So, in other Assassin's Creed news, the title for the next Assassin's Creed has been announced, which is going to be Assassin's Creed Mirage. And this seems to be returning to the Middle East and may coincide with the rumor of this remake. And so it may be one of those things where it's kind of returning to the same sort of landscape that they have played around in, especially like Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. Well, I guess more so 1, obviously, but and that's where maybe some of the remake rumors came from. But as of right now, Mirage has been officially announced by the Assassin's Creed Twitter page, and they gave basically just a quick concept art for it, and it does appear to be returning to the Middle East, which... And there's also rumor it may not be this RPG that we've been getting as, with Odyssey and Origins and Valhalla. So,
Oh, so a return to the roots, maybe.
that's I think the hope for a lot of fans, especially, hey, maybe let's get back to the Assassin story about this, because Valhalla
Yeah.
felt nothing like an Assassin's Creed game in the way of like, there's nothing assassins in this. There's just not... It was kind of a neat like setting and story, I suppose, but it didn't feel like... I guess the last 3 really haven't felt much like that Assassin's Creed game that focusing on that current time mixed with them diving deep into the past and things like that. We haven't gotten as much of that in recent games, and I think that is part of the magic formula that's missing. I don't think it's as interesting of a story if you don't kind of get the best of both worlds. I could be wrong. I mean, but that's something I remember heavily about Assassin's Creed 1 was being as invested in Desmond's story as I was Altair's story, right?
Yeah.
So, are you big into the Assassin's Creed games at all?
Actually, okay, so Assassin's Creed 1 did not really resonate with me, but I enjoyed Assassin's Creed 2. And then like the evolution of it, I did fall in love out of the fiasco with Unity. Unity was a mess, and that's seriously like, like I typically don't try to crucify, a company, when one game, is like just terrible, in a franchise.
Yeah.
But that being said, like there was some like Assassin's Creed Unity was the first game that I can remember like a company turn around and saying, "Hey, we'll give you a full refund if you didn't like it," and stuff like that. And like that kind of sticks in your brain when you hear stuff. Like I mean, we've had more games over the years do that as well. Like Arkham Knight, had a problem. One of the Mortal Kombat games on PC had a problem. And they're like, "We'll give you a full refund on all that stuff." But but yeah, so I definitely fell out of love with the Assassin's Creed games. Valhalla almost got me back there, but it wasn't enough. Like I didn't take the
Yeah.
plunge, and I know the game drops down to like really dirt cheap sometimes on these sales and stuff like that, but it's not cheap enough for me yet.
Fair enough. I used to love the Assassin's Creed franchise, especially through. I think I played all the way through 3.
Mhm.
Um, and then I kind of started to drop off because it got samey. Well, and I do appreciate what they did with Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, where they tried to add different elements and kind of spice it up a little bit. But I don't think it was enough, and it still became this collectathon, right? Like where it's the whole map is riddled with these little, spots to go check out, go get a chest, go. And half the time you would go do it just to get it off of your map, and you would get
Yeah,
next to nothing from it.
yeah, that's the other thing too. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand when the how those games became like they're worse than fetch quests. Like, I mean, like at least fetch quests, like you feel like you're accomplishing something.
Right. Right. And these just they don't have it anymore. And
Yeah.
I've dipped into Valhalla. I think I played about 20 hours of Valhalla. I played it pretty consistently there when it first came out because I love the Viking setting, right? Like I do
Mm.
enjoy that kind of world, the Norse mythology and everything of that nature, but it after I mean 20 hours was a struggle, and that was like I played 10 hours and enjoyed it kind of, and then got out of it and then just never really returned. And then I finally did. I was like, okay, well, I don't have anything to play right now, so I hopped into Valhalla, played a couple more hours over the course of like a week or whatever it may be, and eventually just got to the point where I don't have the energy for this. I'm also one of those completionists that has to get rid of every single little thing on the map, and that'll about drive you crazy in a game like that. I mean,
Yeah, for real.
200 hours later, it's like, oh yeah, there's no more little shiny yellow dots on there, but I also have lost my sanity and all joy I have in playing games anymore. So next up, we also have a little bit more Ubisoft news. So Rocksmith Plus, sorry, has a launch date after what seems like an eternity of radio silence. So this game slash learning tool slash subscription service will be launching on PC September 6th. At launch, Rocksmith Plus will feature over 5,000 songs with more promise to be added in the future. Some names mentioned include The Clash, Juan Gabriel, Eurythmics, Cake, Muddy Waters, Natalia Lafourcade, Alicia Keys, Boston, Martino de Villa, Peter Tosh, Santana, Van Morrison, and more. There is a special loyalty offer available at launch to those who have played Rocksmith before or took part in the closed Rocksmith Plus beta. So you can get one free month when you subscribe for 3 months, or get 3 months free when you subscribe for a year. Subscriptions will be available in 1 month, 3 month, and 12-month increments, and all subscriptions will be done through the Ubisoft Store. And this game will be set to release for mobile devices later in the year. They also did add a new feature where you don't necessarily have to have their proprietary cable or whatever the hell,
Well,
where
that's
you can
good.
actually use your phone, which it's supposed to pick up on it, but I have my doubts about how well that will work. So the cable's probably the best option. Obviously, this is not going to be included because it's a subscription model, so you're gonna have to buy this cable either from the Ubisoft store or third-party seller or something. I'm sure somebody has some version of this cable that is not probably overpriced. I haven't even looked to see what the cable costs, but I can't imagine it's cheap because it's
Oh yeah.
proprietary, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is neat. I'm not. Some people are kind of in the boat where it's like, I would rather have, just the ability to buy the game and just buy the songs I want. I think if you're getting a library of 5,000 songs, a subscription model for a little while isn't too bad. I
Yeah.
didn't look at the prices, and that is something that I probably should have looked at. So let's see here.
What is the pricing for it?
Yeah. Do, 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 do.
Uh,
Of course, it's not readily available. That would be
yeah,
too
yeah.
easy.
I'm looking at it right now. Like there's no information about how to like subscribe or get set up on it.
Yeah,
And I'm actually on their website.
Yeah, it was on Ubisoft as well. So it looks like, okay, here we go. Okay. Enter my age. Oh, come on. It was right here. I saw it. It was. I wish I would have looked this up beforehand. All right, here it is. So $14.99 for a 1 month subscription, $39.99 for a 3 month subscription, and $99.99 for a 12-month subscription. That seems
It seems a little steep.
aggressive.
Yeah.
I would have probably been in for,
For $10 per month.
yeah. I would have been.
Okay, the $99 a year actually sounds like the best deal, honestly.
Oh,
yeah, because $15 a month, like you've already, yeah, like.
I mean, that's the same. That's actually more expensive than it is to play Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just, it seems a little aggressive for a pretty niche game, all things considered.
Yeah, because that's the other thing too. Like, if this is like, because the music genre is kind of in limbo right now. Like there are music games out there, and that still come out and stuff like that. But this is bringing back a brand, and like I feel like the pricing is gonna jab them in the throat.
This is another thing that I don't care for. So currently, your Rocksmith Plus subscription is only valid on the platform on which you initially registered. There are no cross-platform features at this time. That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. In this day and age, come on.
Especially when it's something that's tied to your Ubisoft account. Why wouldn't you be able to use this on mobile as well as that's piss poor. I mean, that's just bad.
I agree.
I have a feeling they're going to absolutely fuck this up. And I think they're going to have to reduce prices pretty significantly, or at least have deals on this almost constantly to even get enough people to sign up for it. I think there's definitely going to be some diehards like Evan from WASD. I guarantee he's at least going to get it for a while. I don't know how long he'll maintain his subscription, but I guarantee he will at least get it for a while. He's been very excited about this, and we were looking into it like a month ago trying to find out anything, right? And it's been a year and a half since they announced it, pretty much, and we've gotten next to nothing.
I'd honestly forgotten about it.
Yeah.
If I'm being serious, I'd forgotten about it because I heard it was coming back, just like because Rock Band made it come back, and now we don't hear anything about that.
Yeah, Rock Band
tried. I think their servers are still open, but I just don't hear anything about it.
I would love to play a Guitar Hero game again. I don't know how much I would get into it, right? But it seems like something that would be fun every great once in a while, but I can't justify $15 a month when I haven't barely picked up my guitar in the last 6 years. Like, I enjoy playing guitar. I used to love playing it, and I used to play it all the time, but I don't have time for that. I want to sit down and play a game, right? Like, that's what I usually do with my free time. And so it's like, I just can't justify that. And I'm sure there's going to be people that do, and I'm sure it's cool. And I think it's a neat service. I think it's a cool way to learn how to play guitar, but I just don't see this having the legs to move out of this kind of niche space. And I don't think they're going to get what they want out of it, quite frankly. But that's a thing. Ubisoft doing what Ubisoft does best. I'm seeing if you're going to have anything for that. But anyway, PlayStation Plus games for September.
I saw the setup and I was like, no, because I'm the one that dumps on Ubisoft a lot. So I'm going to be nice this time. Fair enough. Like, the one thing I will say, and then we can go ahead and move on, is like, it looks like they've got a nice lineup of of actual like music or like artists and stuff for this. So the library might be its redeeming factor and stuff like that. Because like they've got they've got stuff going back to the 60s all the way through to like modern era music right now.
I feel like having Alicia Keys in your lineup for a guitar game seems kind of like a weird choice. Or at least in
Yeah,
your like advertised initial
I
lineup, like having an Alicia Keys song in there is there's nothing wrong with
I
that,
guess
obviously, but it seems
I
weird for
guess
the
they're like,
marketing for a guitar game.
yeah, I guess they're like, a piano is strings, so guitar. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know.
I'm sure they can make it happen somehow, but it is not what I think of when I'm like, I want to play guitar right now. I want to play
Yeah,
Alicia Keys.
yeah,
Interesting choice. Interesting choice indeed.
yeah, for real.
So PlayStation Plus games for September. So this is going to cover both a couple different categories. So bear with me here. So free with PlayStation Plus Essentials and higher. So this is bare bones PlayStation games. Like you're just paying PlayStation Plus, and anything above, obviously. So Need for Speed Heat, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, and Toem are going to be the free games for September. The extra and premium game catalog editions are Deathloop, like you mentioned earlier, which is cool. Assassin's Creed Origins, Watch Dogs 2, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Spiritfarer Farewell Edition, which is interesting because that just left Xbox Game Pass, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
Chicory, Monster Energy Supercross, Alex Kidd in Miracle World, Rabbids Invasion, Rayman Legends, Scott Pilgrim, and then the classic game catalog editions for premium tier: Siphon Filter 2, which is a PS1 game, Toy Story 3, which is a PSP game, Kingdoms of Paradise, which is a PSP game, the Sly Collection, which is a PS3 game, Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, PS3, and Bentley's Hack Pack, which is a PS3 game. So, how you feel about this list?
Okay, first of all, I am so happy that I did not pull the trigger on that limited run games when they ran Scott Pilgrim. I am so happy because here it
Fair
is.
enough.
Here it
See
is.
that's my luck. I always buy games and they go on sale immediately after.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I have Deathloop on the PC, but I'm itching to see how it plays on the PlayStation, so I can't wait for that either because there's some really intricate stuff going on with the DualSense controller that even though I use the DualSense controller to play my PC games with, like it doesn't have that integration,
Yeah.
on that side. So I can't wait to try that out and stuff like that. And I'm not surprised Watch Dogs 2 is finally, is on there. I'm not surprised at that. But I honestly I feel like just the essential and the extra tiers, it's pretty solid. Like Sony's not really disappointing us,
No.
because a lot of people felt like like I don't know, like it's still debatable whether or not if you subscribe to premium, like I'm a premium subscriber.
Mm.
Um, it's still debatable if it's worth the money and stuff like that. Like I had some leftover like PlayStation Store credit,
Yeah.
so I just spent like an extra like $21 in store credit just to extend until my time runs out. So like
Hmm.
until like November, like I've been messing around with it, and it it's okay. It's okay. I haven't decided if I'm going to renew for premium or if I'm going to just drop down the extra or whatnot. Because I really want to see how like the whole classics line evolves and stuff like that. And I feel like I can't talk about the classics line evolving unless I have access to it.
Yeah,
Um,
I have thought about going extra because I don't have the nostalgia for PlayStation games as much as a lot of people do, right? Because I
yeah,
just
I don't
wasn't
I
in
don't
that
either.
ecosystem.
Uh
So
huh.
the premium, like adding the PS3 games and stuff, I just don't have that connection. But I have thought about going extra, especially because I want to try out Stray because everybody talked about that. It was a kind of a flash in the pan, though. I mean, it was
Yeah.
there and then gone. But I do want to play it. I've heard good things, and it's a relatively, I mean, 5 hours, so it's a pretty short experience, just enough to kind of get through it. I also want to play Demon's Souls, which is a game that's been on my list forever, and I've almost pulled the trigger on buying I don't know how many different times. But yeah, there's definitely some good games in there, and with their kind of partnership that they have with Ubisoft right now, seeing Assassin's Creed Origins and Watch Dogs 2 get added in here, I'm not surprised. I imagine we'll get probably a couple more Ubisoft games the next time more games are added.
Hmm.
The rest of the list, Deathloop is another good one. That's one I've been waiting for it to come to like Game Pass once all of that exclusive deal has expired.
Yeah.
But I may very well go ahead and upgrade to premium and just play it on the PlayStation, right? Like you said, that DualSense integration in games is actually really awesome, and I love the way it's been implemented. There's obviously times you don't want it. Like if you're playing Call of Duty, it's probably not ideal to have resistance on your trigger if you're trying to be competitive in any way, shape, or form. But regardless, like racing games and things like that, it is really, really cool what it does. But I think overall the list is pretty good, right? Like I'm not super stoked on necessarily most of the games in the premium tier. Sly Cooper is cool, right? But I just don't have that nostalgia, so I'm pretty biased in that regard. But Need for Speed Heat, I have played a little bit of as far as for the free games for everybody. It's Need for Speed. They definitely lean into this corny. I don't know where that comes from. Where they get this idea that everybody wants this like way up in the clouds, over fantasized racing world. Like it's more corny than Fast and Furious somehow, and I find that extremely impressive because Fast and Furious has gotten entirely out of hand. But here we are. But yeah, no, I think overall they did pretty good here. And on the other side of the coin, we have the Xbox Games with Gold for September. So Gods Will Fall will be available September 1st to the 30th. Double Kick Heroes will be available September 16th to October 15th. Thrillville will be available September 1st to the 15th of September still. And Portal 2 will be available September 16th to the 30th. And it is also worth noting that this will be the last month that will feature OG Xbox games as well as Xbox 360 games. So Portal 2, being one of the last games to go out, is a good one to go out on. As far as the rest of the games here, okay, it's about what we've been seeing from Games with Gold. It's been pretty depressing, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean, Double Kick Heroes is about the best one in this whole list, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not dissing Portal 2. That's not dissing Portal 2 at all. Like, it's just that has the length of time always been like this for these games though? Because like 15 days, that's kind of ooh.
It's not. Yeah, it's been kind of goofy. They used to have two Xbox One games and then two 360 or OG Xbox games, and they would like cycle them in kind of weird ways where, if I remember correctly, the Xbox One games were available for that month, and then they had a 360 game that was available for like 15 days or half a month, and the other one was available for the other half. It's always been this weird cycle that doesn't make any sense, and they should just make it from the September 1st to the 30th and just be done with
like,
it. Don't make it confusing.
The confusion.
And on top of that, I mean, PlayStation, you can go into their app and claim these games. The Xbox app, you cannot. And I find that atrocious from the standpoint of, like, half the time I'm not going to be sitting at my Xbox being like, I want to claim the games with gold. No, I would like to just be able to do it from my phone when I think about it, because I saw something, while scrolling through Reddit or Twitter or whatever it may be, and just have that quick reminder, be like, oh, I can go claim these. PlayStation has knocked that out of the park. Their app is so much better than the Xbox app. It is absolutely insane. And I don't understand how Microsoft, or Xbox, a division of Microsoft who makes fucking Windows, makes everything 10 times worse. It's incredible. But also, there's Windows 11, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn here. But as we like to close out the show here, we switched things up, and we do... we used to do what we were playing at the beginning of the show, and now we like to do it at the end so we can jump right into the news and not kind of throw people for a loop. So with that, what have you been playing, LeRon?
Well, let's see. You know what? Because I don't think like you kind of got a preview of it last week when you were on Crossroads.
Yeah.
But now I can officially say I have finally started playing Ghost of Tsushima. I'm playing the director's cut. Thank you to PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Plus extra tier, and stuff like that. And yeah, the running gag is like, this is back when Crossroads used to be exclusively a PlayStation show.
Mm-hmm.
How is LeRon the host of a PlayStation show and he's not played one of the greatest games for the PS4 era and stuff like that? Well, it's finally happening now, and I will say this: like it is, I'm kicking myself for why I didn't play this, like sooner, or like when it was an actual, like new game, stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure a Monster Hunter game had something to do with it. So it is what it is and stuff like that. But you know what? Stoy was talking to me on Tuesday night during Crossroads. He's like, you know what? Honestly, you waiting this long to play the game, and the game is finalized, completed, and all this stuff, is probably was the best time to play it. And I will say this is like the narrative experience of this game is amazing. Like gameplay is nice. I love how like you get to pick like your style. Like are you gonna be a traditionalist and be an honorary samurai, or are you gonna be a Ronin and do crazy stuff, or is it gonna be a mixture of the two and stuff like that? And I love it. And God, like just the story arcs that are going on in this game, like I haven't run across a character yet that like I've had to do their story mission for that I've disliked their mission. It's like, man, this is so intriguing, man. This is amazing. So I'm having a blast. I can understand why like Jin Sakai was like everybody's man crush, during 2020. I get it now. Like, man, like yeah, like the dude's a beast. The dude's a beast. And other than that, I've been playing Saints Row, which I'm actually having fun with it. I know it's not making the best grades around the internet right now, stuff like that. But like the game is fun. Like it is definitely a more mature version of the Saints Row that we used to know and love from back in like the Saints Row 3 and 4 days and stuff like that.
Yep.
And that's not really a bad thing in my opinion. It's still got the zaniness and the wackiness that we've known for Saints Row, but it's not just street like like balls in your face, like crazy,
quite literally at times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not really that anymore. Well, I mean, there's still some shenanigans to be had and stuff like that, but it's not. I haven't run across anything shocking yet. You know what I mean? And God, like Saints Row the Third, like man, like it was shocking as soon as you press start. It was like, whoa, what is going on?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same Saints Row formula, as just in a more adult skin. And when I say adult, I mean grown up and not so much adult. Because like every Saints Row game, in my opinion, is adult.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying that. And that's about it right now as far as what I'm doing. As far as gaming. I'm having fun though. I'm playing a classic and I'm playing a new game, and shit, like The Last of Us drops tonight at midnight, and I'm wrestling with myself. Do I pre-order it? Do I buy it now? Because I've seen the early reviews for it, because apparently the influencers can start playing it and streaming it now, which pisses me off. But I'm gonna say this to all the people who think this game who thinks The Last of Us Part 1 is a cash grab. You're lying to yourself. Like I've seen the side-by-side comparisons for the Last of Us remaster and The Last of Us Part 1, and they look like two different games. Like this game looks like this game actually looks like it was built during the PS5 era and not a PS3 game that has gotten like the glamorous treatment and stuff like that. So you guys are lying to yourselves. You thought if you're thinking that this is an obvious cash grab. And I'm not shilling for Sony and Naughty Dog. I am not. But at the same time, I can appreciate when work has been put into a game. And I'm like, if you've seen all those dev diaries and stuff like that, and you still think this is some bullshit and it's not worth $70, this is why you don't have a PlayStation 5. I'll just say that.
No, it does look really good. It's getting fantastic reviews, which I expected nothing less. I mean, it was one of the most beloved games of. Yeah, I mean, the last decade.
And they're not pandery reviews. I've today alone I watched 4 different reviews. They're not pandery at all. They're not saying, well, I love this game and this is why this is. No, they're saying, while they do say they do love this game, they do actually like they rake over with the finest of tooth combs out there and stuff like that. And they're like yeah, like you can tell it's a PS3 game, but it doesn't play like a PS3 game and stuff like stuff like that. It's like, so yeah, like it's getting the reviews it deserves and stuff like that. And I don't know, like like I understand, like like they had two different leaks for this game and stuff like that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Naughty Dog is letting this happen on purpose
Oh,
or if
yeah.
or if there's a real leak. You know what I mean? Because I
That
mean,
seems to be a common marketing tactic as of late.
yeah. I'm not sure if Naughty Dog is just like we're gonna let some random IP address like leak this out, whatever, or if it's a real thing. Because I don't know, I feel like these companies do. I think they have good security for the most part, but it's crazy that Naughty Dog is always getting struck with like leaks, and their leaks are supposed to damn the games and stuff like that. Even though I will admit I did fall for the damning leaks, for The Last of Us Part Two.
Yeah.
I never watched the leaks, but like all the internet like conversation about it and stuff like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
it killed my momentum for wanting to play the game. I own the game, I've never started.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I mean, the internet is a poisonous place to be at sometimes, and
Most of
like
the
I
time.
said, even though I never like checked out anything, as far as the leaks go, like I know more about the game now because the game is like over 2 years old, you know, than I did when they were leaking it, and just the internet killed it for me, bad actors on the internet killed it for me.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's
Yeah,
entirely fair. I
yeah.
never
So,
got into The Last of Us. It just was never something that grabbed me.
uh-huh.
I have respect for it. I mean, for what it is, for sure. But yeah, it's never been my kind of game. But hey, that's why there's a million fucking games that come out a year, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's something for everybody, and more power to them, right? So.
Yep.
Well, let's see. I have still been kind of chipping away at Xenoblade Chronicles. I rolled credits on Cult of the Lamb with 20 hours on it because I
Oh
am a
man.
completionist and did absolutely fucking everything.
Oh, good
Except for a
shit.
couple of the achievements, because some of them are like, beat this boss without getting hit. I'm like, no, I don't, nope. I don't have the patience for that shit. Uh, I played a little bit of Midnight Fight Express, which is a Game Pass or a game that was added to Game Pass not too long ago, and I just never got around to it because I was playing Cult of the Lamb pretty heavily. And now that that has wrapped, I have ventured out into other things again. And this was interesting. It was a game that started out super simplistic, and I thought I was gonna hate it for that reason. And now there's so many different mechanisms and ways you can take people out, and crazy amounts of enemies and all sorts of different abilities that you can get essentially, and it actually can get pretty deep, I think, if you let it. I mean, to some extent, right? Like it is still a pretty simple game, but I'm enjoying it. There's 41 different levels in it, which is bigger than I expected. And I think I've played about 7 of them over the span of maybe an hour.
Mhm.
But there's every time you beat a mission, you can go back and do like challenges within the mission. They don't unlock until after you beat it. So the game's really built around this ability to replay the game and enjoy it in a different way rather than just going through and playing for the story, which seems there is a story there. It's kind of loose. You could not pay any attention to it and probably be just fine. I also jumped back into Forza Horizon 5 because I never did finish the Hot Wheels expansion before I got sidetracked and started playing other things. So I have now jumped back into that a little bit and have kind of been slowly chipping away at it and doing some of the odds and end challenges and things that are presented there. And then one of the mainstays as of late has been Rocket League, because some of our community is big into it and I get drug into it against my will. And it's a game that I hate to love and love to hate, and it hates me and I hate it, and that's just kind of where I'm at with Rocket League. And it used to be a game that every week we would talk about. I'm like, oh, I played Rocket League again and played way too much of it, and I don't play nearly as much anymore, but I have been getting drugged back into it, and it is unfortunately just like a drug. It's ruining my life. It's fine. Well, anyway, thank you, LeRon, for coming on.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead and tell the people where they can find you again in case they missed you at the beginning here.
All right. Yep, definitely. Hit me up on social media at Exodus803. That's Twitter and Instagram, as well as YouTube, Twitch, and that's my PlayStation Network ID and my Steam ID. And yeah, like if you want to hear me and some friends talk about everything PlayStation, PC, and Xbox gaming, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Exodus803, for the Crossroads Video Game Podcast, where Brody's like an honorary member. Like, yeah, Brody was there with me at the very beginning. So, you're like, yeah, like there's always a spot in the, in the house for you and stuff like that. But yeah, that's it. And I'm like, check out some of the things I get up to on bossrush.net. I'm a writer for the website, as well as a contributor to like a couple of other podcasts that are out there.
Yeah, it's always a blast doing shows with you. We don't do it enough, and I love coming on Crossroads. Love having you on here. It's fun, even when we have Jeff and have that 3-person banter that we don't get on Diggity very often anymore. It seems to be just kind of 2 of us going at it, but no,
you guys do it well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I mean, like I said, I love being on Crossroads. It's always a blast. I always enjoy listening to it, and it's always great to have other people from other networks instead of just kind of revolving within our own, and fun to expand a little bit. So, but with that, guys, it has been Diggity episode 266. I appreciate you guys listening and checking it out. Definitely hop in the community Discord. There's a lot of fun things happening over there where we're having a good time, just playing games, hanging out. There's always at least like 5 or 6 people in there every night. So if you're just out hanging out, playing games, whatever it may be, hop in there, talk to some people, shoot the shit, and have a good time. Check out the other shows under Spawn Camp, WASD, The Build Bros, Objectively Bad Opinions, or OBO as we typically refer to it. They all do different things, all kind of have their own way of going about things, or their shows, and Objectively Bad Opinions is just absolute chaos at all times. And it's kind of the odd sheep. It's not really focused on any like nerd culture or anything, but it's still a lot of fun to do. But with that is it for us. We'll see you next week.